Of the royal family, we often think, don't we, that they just all get on. But why would they be any different for like our families? We all have relatives, don't we, and sort of associates that you think, oh no, they're coming again, or you have to be on your best behaviour. You know the ones I mean, yes. And really, it's always Christmas time and holidays when they turn up, and you think, particularly when you're younger. Remember, your mum and dad would tell you off and say, I know they're a bit difficult, but just smile and speak and all that sort of stuff. And that's why the British monarchy is simply no different. You might say in modern times, the most famous fallout really would have been, of course, with the sadly now lost Duke of Edinburgh, His Royal Highness Prince Philip. He had zero time for the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, and simply wouldn't be in the same room with her, even though Her Majesty the Queen, Queen Elizabeth, had sort of moved on from that. She was very good at sort of departmentalizing things and saying, well, look, that was then, this is now. No, he wasn't having it. He just was not having it. And I know from an excellent source that the Duchess of York was absolutely terrified of him because he could just wander in a room and create that particular tension. But he felt naturally that she'd brought the whole British monarchy into disrepute, and he felt that he couldn't forgive her. That was his sort of mindset, and you have to stick with it. Of course, when you look at royal history gone past, you kind of think, yes, well, who else really fell out spectacularly? And it was this particular princess. Let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you. Thank you so much as ever for joining me today. Lovely to have your company on a brisk and bright day here in London town, and always lovely to share these stories with you. Thank you so much, by the way, for supporting them. I know there's so many people like me that just love a different sort of pace of story, a different world, and you just like looking into the past and thinking, wow, well, this lady really was a trendsetter. Think about it, this particular princess, Princess Louise, was really up there with none other than Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Beautiful, stunning, and admired. And everything that she wore was copied and put into the magazines and periodicals of the day. She was one of those people that could create a sensation, but this created a problem between her and the Queen, Queen Victoria. You see, Queen Victoria, when you think about it, had gone to the throne very young and was very spoiled in many respects because she'd had her own way. Yeah, she was, a very bright, pretty young thing, and then, of course, became this empress, regarded the world over. So any competition, whether it be her daughters or indeed her sons, well, she wasn't having it, she just was not having it. She was Queen Bee. Now, as I say, Princess Louise was a totally different character. She was what you would now call today a modern girl, simply because she didn't really just want to be at home, being a wife and a mother. She wanted to do other things. So she was very, very sort of active in various charitable movements. As we know, she was a wonderful sculptress. She had many different interests. And as I said, without realizing it, leading fashion. It's fascinating to think that even though she was born all of those years ago, by the time she departed in 1939, she'd really and truly left her mark on the royal life. According to a very well-placed source, Queen Elizabeth really had a lot in common with her because she liked her temperament and the way that she dealt with people, particularly in the walkabouts and in public. She learned a lot, apparently, from studying her. But what was fascinating, and I wanted to share this particular nugget with you, is simply this, because she, again, broke tradition upon her demise. And this is because, unlike most members of the British monarchy, she decided that she didn't want to be necessarily interned in the usual way, that normally would be out at Windsor, St. George's Chapel, all that sort of stuff. No, she didn't want to do that. She fancied another way, which was to be cremated, which really created a lot of furor. You can imagine people thinking, wow, why would you want to do that? Now, here's where it gets really interesting again, because they had to adhere to this, and this happened up at Golders Green, a rather famous crematorium up there. But what was also fascinating was that she stipulated certain things in her will, particularly what was going to happen to her vast fortune, many of her wonderful clothes, which some are still intact today in many of the historic royal palaces. Fascinating to look at when you see them, just because you kind of think, wow, what a lot of effort you girls put in just to get ready for the day. You know what I'm saying? But what was interesting for me was this particular final moment, if you like, because when she decided that she was going to be cremated, she'd also said that just before this was to happen, she wanted her jewellery, particularly her engagement and her wedding ring, to be removed from her fingers. And because of whatever situation happened at that moment, that didn't happen. And so she went in literally with the jewels on. But what was fascinating was when they decided to then recover the ashes to put into an urn to take back to Windsor, and that remained was the two rings, totally intact, unaffected by heat whatsoever. And they were to be placed back in the urn with her ashes back at Windsor. Now, I don't know about you, but don't you find that story spooky? Why on earth would they not be affected by that mass heat that they would have had? Seemingly, some people might suggest Princess Louise was her own woman right to the very end. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.